If you are leading or working within a remote team, a question that would be really healthy to ask is, how do you build stronger culture within a remote team? I'm Chad, and in this video, I'm gonna not hold back. I'm gonna share everything I know about how to weave a really tight culture that creates high performance, high engagement, but also creates a workplace, virtual remote workplace that is worth showing up to. And so I get to work with some of the most innovative, cool, remote companies and organizations on the planet. And so I'll share some really great examples of how organizations and how you can strengthen your culture within a remote team. Let's get into it. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 types of people that you find on a remote team. And then I'm also going to share 5 tips, secrets, ideas to help strengthen your culture with each of those individual types of people. I hold the answers in this little triangle pyramid. And so let's dive into it. So right off the bat, one of the things I've noticed in working with organizations all around the world is there are 5, I'm saying types of people. The words that I'm about to share are really states of mind, not traits of people. And so even though I'm saying this is a type of person, I would say that it's more of a mindset that changes between. But having this language makes a huge difference in how you engage your team and connect with them. And so what I've noticed is the bulk of people fit into one of 3 of these mindsets, either critic, consumer, or contributor, right? So critic, consumer, or contributor. Below critic, you've got curmudgeons. These are people who are living in a perpetual state of crankiness. Nothing you say and or do is going to change them out of that state. And they do impact culture quite negatively. And then above contributors, you've got connectors, people who are amazing. They basically have become hubs for contribution. And so these are your leaders and emerging leaders who are fantastic at helping to connect people and people to each other and to ideas within the organization, to knowledge within the organization, so that they can be really phenomenal at their jobs. So one, knowing those mindsets, what I want to do is share a framework or a way that you can help strengthen your culture to shift out of this curmudgeon, critic, consumer mindset into the contributor and connector place, because that's where really phenomenal organizations tend to live. Now, on a remote team, there's some extra challenges in creating that because people are isolated. They feel separated. One of the ways that I like to think about culture on a remote team is, my dad works in the medical field, and I broke my thumb one time. And so I had to have it in a brace, like any bone that you break. And one of the things he said to me is, imagine that every day you keep your thumb straight, one little spider web of your broken bone kind of grows and strengthens. And so after a number of days, you've got a bunch of spider webs and it's strong enough and your bone heals. The problem is every time you bend your thumb, you break those spider webs. And so if after day 3, you are impatient and you bend your thumb, you've got to start over back at day 0. And so culture on a remote team is a little bit like that, where when you're on Zoom or whatever platform you're meeting on and you pressed end meeting in the bottom, it's kind of like bending your thumb. You break those ties and then you start to rebuild them asynchronously. So whether you're meeting over Slack or some other platform to communicate asynchronously, and so you slowly build those spider webs back up. And so you want to be intentional, though, about when you click log off that you do have some mode of communication so those spider webs don't actually break in that moment. So here is the framework that I'll share with you. And actually, before I unpack that fully, as to not overwhelm you, so part of the idea of how to build a really strong culture on a remote team is to ask really powerful questions and create conversations that matter. It has this domino effect that has an impact on your world or your remote culture. And so I'm going to share 5 ways that you can do this, 5 tools, and they kind of align with that spread of curmudgeon, critic, consumer, contributor, and connector. One thing to keep in mind is as you're trying to strengthen culture, you cannot push curmudgeons to be critics or consumers. You can't change consumers to be contributors. You can only create an environment or a culture where they opt into that mindset, that space. And when they do, your culture is fundamentally stronger, right? It's healthier, morale is higher, productivity is higher when you're surrounded by connectors and contributors. When you're surrounded by a culture of critics and curmudgeons, that drags people down, especially on a remote team. So to really invite curmudgeons into the game, you have to set the intention, I would say, of being willing to know them, right? Curmudgeons often, and it's very easy for people on a remote team to not feel seen, to not feel heard or understood in that way. And so the first game is that to say, I'm willing to know you. And so if you're a leader, and the people on your team don't feel like you are willing to know who they are, not just what they do or their role or their task focus. If you're not willing to know who they are, it's going to be very hard to elevate that place. So if you cross that threshold, I would say up one level beyond that is I see you. And so this is where you're really saying, not only am I willing to know you, but on a regular basis, I see and notice you, right? I acknowledge you in that way. And one of the simplest ways to do that virtually is to be naturally curious. So when we meet remotely, we hop on video, we have the context of all the backgrounds around us. And so you can be curious, Chad, why is your map hanging upside down? Tell me about the green thing back there. Tell me, right? Let me meet your dog. Being curious about someone's environment is a very safe way to be able to connect with that person and be able to say, I see you, right? And I'm kind of going through these at a fairly quick level. The second one, I hear you, actually has to do more with the types of questions that we're asking. So in order to hear someone, we have to ask questions. You know, kids between the ages of 3 and 5 ask 300 to 400 questions per day. Adults tend to ask 6 to 12 questions per day. And so if you want to hear your team and you feel like, the culture's kind of disengaged, people are kind of passive, they're in that consumer bucket, my question to you is, are you asking them questions? And are you asking them questions with the intention that you're not only willing to know them and that you see them, but you actually want their contribution because you value them as an individual? Right? You see how I'm focusing a lot on culture of valuing as an individual. It makes a huge difference. In fact, there was a phenomenal study done for at the Center for Talent Innovation, which was published in the Harvard Business Review, that employees who felt like they belonged at work, and they had a definition for that, but employees who felt like they belonged at work were 3.5 times more likely to contribute to their fullest potential. 3.5 times more likely to contribute if you feel like you belong. You know, at Airbnb headquarters, there's a banner hanging over a bunch of doors that says, "You belong here." On a remote team, you can't have that messaging. And so it has to be embedded. That messaging has to be embedded within the culture. And this is one way to create that. So up one level from that is being in this place of I get you. So this is really where people are saying, I understand you as well. So I actually understand you. And in order to do that, you have to reflectively listen. And so the tool here is when your team says something, feed it back to them, even in chat, right? Even if you're communicating over email or some chat service, reflecting back to make sure you understood what they got. And so reflecting back what you heard in your own words to make sure you really understood what they're putting out. That is an amazing ability to strengthen the connection and culture in a team. And if as a team, you develop that practice of reflective listening and basically holding up a mirror to other people's words, it has a profound impact of saying, I get you, I understand you. And if you can do that, you can jump up to this last level, which is I am actually with you. And the tool on the flip side of this is empathy. And that's where your team, even though you work remote and you may be halfway around the world, each of your team members feels like the rest of their team has one foot in their reality. And this is where you could actually describe the world as they see it to some extent. And so think about empathy when you jump on a virtual call. Do you know what they were doing for the 3 hours before that? Do you know what they're doing for the next 3 hours? Have you seen a little bit of their context and their space? Have you met their kids or their dog or their cat, right? Being able to describe their world and being able to follow your curiosity and check in on that has a really profound impact on strengthening culture. When we develop cultures of connection and belonging, contribution goes way up. And when contribution goes way up as an organization, you succeed. It's in the benefit of everybody to be in that space.